So even, everybody.
Even.
And is the vowel long or short?
Long.
Long. So even. So we're going to do our definition of open syllable. We code it, vowel, and then consonant, vowel, consonant. So if then is what kind of syllable? Closed, consonantally, or open? Then. Closed. So they can even put open, closed, whatever you want. There's nothing else there but the vowel. It's always open. Closed is always closed in. That's a cumulative. I always like to teach open with closed. Because if this is what, everybody? Ho. And if I put a P, it's hop. Because that consonant closes it and makes it short. Now, your students on their licenses will have more drill and practice exercises.
An open syllable always has a long vowel, and the long vowel says its name. So it's clo, ver. And the O says its name. You can use words like be becomes beg.
So you can do harder words too. After they do it, they put it on. Everybody. Consult is the first, second, or third. Third. And you can do this as a group. Problem. First, second, or third? First. Okay, and if they make a mistake, it'll show it. And they'll just get more. If I don't do them all, they won't let me go to the next one. But if I keep guessing at it, well, here it tells me the one that I did wrong and the one that is right, but then I'm going to get more. Okay? And then you come to always the fluency drill, where they can practice it. But on the student one, there'll even be more. After they do the two, they get a review, where they're given words and they'll say which syllable it is, and I can't do it because I haven't done it.
So do we assign max words to them, or? I'm sorry,
Yes.
I didn't hear that part.
And they start with the close and they go in this order. I'm going to do the magic E, because that is always a long vowel syllable with the silent E. So here again, this would go on a card. This is a division. Vowel consonant is E. And again, you can make words like
Tap and tape.
exactly. And that's an easy syllable to learn. Short vowels are much harder, but this one always says its name if there's an E at the end. Some exceptions, not too many. Part of your reading deck, but now you're understanding the deck you have is phonemes, phonological foundation. The syllables are more of rules and coding and bracketing and segmenting. Okay? But you really want them to see those syllables, because I can promise you every one of those students will look at Bandit and say bundle. They look at the configuration. So it's very important. Take your time, teach it, and see how we always review it. Again, you go to Max Words. And I'm leaving the vowel control because it's the longest one. But this is a Vossier, where it had, the R is always involved with the vowel. It's a vowel, but it's controlled by the R. And they always leave these out. Like doctor, they'll spell D-O-C-T-R. So again, you would make your rule, which is in your notebook and in your workbook, and you would make a card, as in bird, or as in born, or doctor, or worm, so it's in the middle or end, as in her, So the coding of R controlled is always vowel R. You see it on page 12 of your workbook. And on page 42, you would make AR on the back star, OR, ER, IR like mirror, hurt. And sometimes WOR is an R control. You go in order because after every 2 syllables, they get a quiz, a mastery test. So you can see if they can, and it's cumulative. So if you're taking it on R control, then you're getting all closed, consonants open, double vowels, and R control. You're going to have to go through the students and do it. And the double vowels take a long time. And they're very confusing. And again, on page 43, you can visualize on this R control how you would do your lesson plan, or which parts of the lesson plan. The beauty of it, the English language is very, very difficult. But if you teach it in a consistent, sequential, cumulative way, they will learn it. It really does work. But there's a lot of steps, but you don't have to do all the steps in one day. But the software will be very important too, because it's what they can then do independently. Or the teacher can teach from the software and they can then do it.
The software timing, like 30 minutes a day for 3 days a week or whatever, that stays the same regardless of their
The what?
age. The amount of time for software usage.
Unless Ann increases it.
If, I'm going to say that that's the minimum, but if they can get
Right.
on it more, they can get on it more.
When they teach it, do direct teaching. They can also do it on the software, because then you and I can see how much time they really are doing guided. Because it's like Elmer's glue breaking these habits. Where by the time it's 3rd grade, they've survived. It's like having a bad tennis serve. You don't want to correct it because at least sometimes you get it in. Sometimes they might get a word. So you're retraining their brain. So, but if you make it fun and manipulative, and they love the salt. They like to play with it, I'll warn you. But they do like it. They like it when it feels a little different. Okay, so you need your notebook, 1 to 5. So we'll start with the auditory drill. Number 1 to 5 and put auditory drill. So we're doing R control. Page 42 of your manuals. You are going to have for the R control, it's bossy. It just won't leave that vowel alone. So IR as in mirror. R controlled syllables is a vowel that's bossed by the R. So you always hear like purple. And we code it with a vowel R on top. So it can be ER as in fern, IR as in skirt, AR as in scarf,
OR as in corn, AR, scarf,
How would I code that in corn? Vowel R. Okay, so you can do your auditory or sound drill, and I'm going to, as your 3-part drill, and I'm going to say the sound as in firm, and underline it. Remember, we're doing sounds on auditory drill. Yeah.
So firm, let's say they do ER instead of IR because they make the same sound.
Then you got to work on ER and IR.
So how would you tell them to distinguish?
Firm versus fern.
No. If you say firm, but then they write ER, and you can't, they sound the exact same. F-E-R-M and
Because you really should be teaching it in isolation, one at a time. I'm just doing it faster, and that's how the English language is tricky, and that's where the visual memory has to come in for them to remember how to spell it. And that's where that highlighting piece strengthens the visual memory part of the brain, and for some reason, children who do a lot of max reading become better spellers. And I ask my colleagues, how is that possible? Because spelling is the last thing for them to learn. It's the hardest. And they said because you have the tactile of the highlighting and the color of the highlighting, it focuses the brain more on the visual image of the word. So a lot of these words you just have to
direct
remember.
instruction, and just this is one of those tricky ones, and we're gonna look at it the right way and just try.
You always say there's always an exception. The only stable syllable is the consonant LE. That's the only one that's the same all the time. But I wouldn't do it. I would teach it as in burn.
Burn. U R R.
Okay. Is that helpful to see?
It is. I see this drill taking a while with kids just so that they can start. Here's another question. I will.
This part is the most important because they're hearing it and writing it.
Would you have them, like, when you're doing this, like, work with UR words for a while, then do IR, and then do ER, and
Before you mix it.
before you started mixing with it?
Yes. I'm just showing you what an auditory drill looks like when you're done with it.
It's like a, but then.
Yeah, because we did the visual drill, the auditory drill. Remember 3-part drill, which you all said you got. I was so happy. Then we give them words. Okay, and then the next day, they would go on either the spelling, the sentence dictation, and the comprehension. Or maybe just the comprehension, because you might have to spend more time on this.
I see Allison.
I know.
Okay, I see that it's going to help students decode words, whereas when you're saying sound out a word, they're not just going to have to, after they've gotten to this point, sound out every single sound. If they can break it into smaller chunks, they're going to be able to decode more
Fluently. And fluency is always on the software and here, and I really feel you all understand fluency now. Right.
I would add too, or just saying she's talking about decoding, but I think also too being able to spell, so encode as well as reading.
It teaches them some reliable chunks that they can apply to other words. This is reliable, and I can apply it somewhere.
It's reliable, and you want to always integrate it. You always want to, if they miss a word, let's see, what syllable is that? In the back of your Clover manual, these manuals, I was very happy on the evaluations, everybody's using them. Since somebody brought up spelling, you have the spelling rules of the close on page 82. The close, the consonant, the open. The vowel teams are two teams, and when the old sound of adage, which was when two vowels go walking, the first one does the walking, talking, the other one does the walking, is not true. Because you have EA like in head, which is short, not long. But we'll go through that. But here you have all of another way of some syllable exception charts. If you want to teach it, go ahead, but I wouldn't kill them on it at the beginning. On page 79, you have a chart. But here you have A for A as an apple, cake. So these are all the different ways of A in the English language. And AI, the double vowel, is in the middle for A, and AY is at the end, like in trade. So on level 0, prep 1 and prep 2, there's no highlighting, it's just answering questions. 3, 4, and 5 is highlighting. And level 1 is just highlighting. Level 2, they're going into all the steps of the horse killing here. So now you got to go to My Max, and you're going to go to Max Reading. And scroll down. 2. Everybody's going to go to 2. And we're going to go to Abe Lincoln. And we're going to go to childhood. So the first step, if you go back to the top, is vocabulary. You can use Max vocab cards to put, let's go to childhood, click on it. So it gives a $250 an hour tutoring thing that they teach on test prep in New York. So go to the definition, a period of being young, go to in a sentence, go to a synonym, go to an antonym. So if they don't know it, they would write, if you want, and I have them do it on Ring, childhood, young, a synonym, my childhood was fun. And they write it. And you don't have to do this, I'm just giving you options. Go, okay, next. And they read it. There is a read aloud. So what I want them to do in a guided, and again, we can watch this with the teacher, is that they read it first before they start highlighting. Because that's a strategy you should always use, not just dive into it. We'll click the pause and we'll go to next. And here we're going to highlight. And then we're going to go to the main idea, and then it was about Abraham Lincoln, who had a very hard childhood. Okay? So we're going to do what I call selective highlighting rather than each word, and I'll show you why. So go to details. And we do each word for that encoding. Then we get our score. You'll see what they put, but it's long. The next part is most important. Okay, next. This is new. This is important. So let's go. Okay, got it. It's very hard for struggling readers to pick out what is important to remember and what's the topic and the main idea. So the first thing we do is add 3 details, because they have to remember in a passage at least 3 important details. So we click add detail, add detail. Okay. So what's the topic?
Childhood.
Childhood.
Do I highlight it or do I type it?
You type it. And all this is recorded. And then what is my main idea? And here you can put it in a sentence. What is my main idea? Abe Lincoln had a what?
Hard childhood.
Had a hard childhood. So here we, again, make the distinction. Topic is 1 or 2 words. Main idea is a sentence. That's your foundation in your house of what it's about. Okay, born in 1-room cabin, because we're going to do 3 details. And in the second and third paragraph, who died? Who died?
Brother Thomas.
Brother Thomas died, and in the third paragraph, who else?
His mother.
Mother. And was he old or young?
Still young.
Young. So mother and brother died. I would put that all in here, because that's our second one. Brother Thomas and mother died when he was young. And the third detail, how did he learn to read?
He taught himself.
Anybody know if we want a sentence expand? He taught himself to read through Bible and story. Very important, because now you know, are they processing the paragraph? Because sometimes you might say they're just highlighting everything, but they got to pay attention, because they're going to have to do that. So go to the next, click on summary, because our Max Scholar kids really improve on their writing. So the summary is a main idea, 3 important details, and a conclusion, and you have Anne's great outline there. Or we can do open-ended, click on open-ended. This helps our kids do better on ELA exams, because they have to have a written response from what they have read. Or they can answer a general question, which is always an input. But since you did a great job, and I recommend, and you might want to write this down, they all write summaries. Because they're all poor readers. And research shows, and the repetition of doing it over and over and over again with different content, it gets cemented to automaticity. So I recommend at the beginning of the year, you do summaries. Then start the open-ended, because you're getting them ready for the test. But you don't want to put the cart before the egg. If they can't put it in their own words, and I'll show you samples, they're not going to do it. So here's the recipe. On the COP strategy, the recipe would be capitalization, organization, which is 5 sentences, main idea sentence, 3 details, conclusion, punctuation, and spelling. Here's where someone said they like the encoding piece. You want to see if they can spell those words that you've been teaching in isolation. This is why this program works, because it's always integrating in general. Okay, so she's going ahead. Abe Lincoln had a hard childhood. His mother and brother, Thomas, died when he was young, so she's following it. And what's the third detail?
We taught them to read.
We taught himself to read through the Bible and storybooks. Here's the hardest part. Sentence number 5. The conclusion. Because it's their opinion, and you know they like everything black and white. So here I teach an opener, like even though he had a hard childhood, what could you say?
He grew up to be a great man.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair. Okay.
Okay. But see how you can tell everybody's different level of language in your class? Okay. So now do okay next. Then you answer the question. Well, they're going to know the main idea because they highlighted it, they put it in an outline, they put it in a summary, it starts to slowly come. And I see 11th and 12th graders that don't know the main idea. What kind of question is this? How was a house where Abe was born different from a modern house? Compare and contrast. Implicit. Then you have cause and effect. Do you remember what happened when his mother died?
You have to take on more
He
chores.
had to take on more chores. Then you always have vocabulary. Remarried, and re is the prefix which we'll get into the next time I come. And you get your score. So here you can see their outline where you can have a conference with them. And now go to the outline, the writing. So on my reports I'll have what she did on August 16th, and then I can see that. If I went through my COPs, everything's perfect. The issue you will see, and I can show you some students what it looks like, they won't do complete sentences, they won't do a capital letter or period, or maybe they'll do 2 details. So you pick one skill at a time in Orton Gillingham, and it would be writing 5 sentences a day. That's what Diana King would say. And putting a square around the first letter to capitalize and a circle around the end.
So does that acronym COPS appear in the workbook or in the software? Exactly that way, COPS.
It appears in your manuals.
Only in the teacher's manuals.
Because strategies you don't put in workbooks.
Right.
It has to be applied during the direct lesson. Same with SOS, same with arm tapping, same with finger tapping.
That's what I'd ask.
These are things that you're going to do all the time. We're using the workbooks as direct lessons and the software, and then they're doing it. So this is a student from Minnesota. He is a 5th grader, but I want you to see this. So, what would you work on if this was your student? This is what you want to teach your teachers, and you can use Scansy and Scansy to show this. But what would you work on? What skill?
Complete sentences.
Complete sentences.
Capitalization.
And capitalization of periods, and that's what the teacher worked on, and this is the beauty of the software. Let's do that. And see how you can print that out to show and put a date? So now, if I go back to 1, 2, 3 stories later, I can meet with that child. I've set goals with them. And look at the difference. He was in school 6 years. When you take 2 minutes to set goals, I need you to really write sentences with a capital letter and a period. And we're going to practice it every day. You're going to do it for homework or whatever, or in class. You can see finally he understood that. So that's the diagnostic prescriptive piece of this, and it allows you to really meet with the student in an accessible way for them to see a running record of what they've done. So here I can see he placed out of phonics, but he had to do blends and digraphs, and he got all the checks, which means he passed it. So he's in Clover now, and he's on the test that I told you about, which we could do. And he also, I can see what he's done on the spelling rules. So you get a running record of what they're doing. So whenever you click on the grade, it'll take you to where you can see from level 2 on the writing and the outline. On some days when you don't have enough time, you can skip it and go right to the questions. Because if they want to level up, you're going to have to pick which days they do it, because they have to do a lot of them. So I wanted to show you that they can go right to the questions. And again, if they redo it, it'll show 2 attempts, but it'll be different questions, because we don't want them just memorizing. So you can look up, so go to word search, because they love it, and I'll show you as teachers where you can cheat. Click on it. So you can go solve. So you do the first and the last letter. Okay, so clear it. Bible. And the E. Click it. And see how it erases it? Okay. So now go back to childhood. And there's word search, whether it's on Facebook or Netflix, it's the same vocabulary. So go back to childhood here. And it'll always take you to the end and go play the games and do definitions. And click start. So it's reinforcing that vocabulary from that passage. You might want to write this down. Research from learners shows the only way to teach vocabulary is through the context of a passage, which you have 3,900, and through prefixes, suffixes, and Latin and Greek roots, like re-meaning again, re-marrying. So you have all of that on here. Okay, so now go back. If you want them to level up on their comprehension, they don't have to do an outline and summary every time, because it'll go slower, but you do want them to do it. And you can still have your teachers have them write a summary in the younger grades and just put it in their Orton notebook if they're on a first grade level. This doesn't start till level what? 2.
Yeah,
You
I know.
mentioned
I'm
that
like,
that if the kid was on level 1, they don't have summaries.
Not on the computer.
Right. You could have them do it in notebooks, but I'm wondering if students who are on level 1, who are in upper grades, you might not want to take the time to do the summaries, because you might want to move into blends quickly.
Yes. No, it's to level 2
Right,
quickly.
yeah,
Right.
To level 2 quickly, sorry, yeah.
But they can do the outline and summary in the direct lesson.
Right.
The direct lesson doesn't always have to be paper. I showed you how you can use the computer, and then you can really track how long the teachers are giving that direct lesson, because it's on the software for administrators. So go back to My Max and go to Max Music. Click on Artist. And go scroll down to the Beatles. Do you know the Beatles are first grade sight words? So go to Here Comes the Sun. Here comes the sun. So go to this one, fillers. And do try again, because you can do it again, because I did it. So this is closed reading. Here, to the verb comes. So click on comes the sun. Very cool, right? All sight words. And go to piano. Now you got to play with the piano, what the computer plays. You can play it again. But it does, it's like Simon, it helps their working memory. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it, but it's a motivator if you want. So